in addition to all of that, on this very day, the Democrats thumb the left. They thumb the progressive. Even after AOC has tried to play ball, even after we've talked about how she's undergone her entire Obamification, where she took out her claws and she was like, I'm going to be a house cat, but please just negotiate with me so that we can get a couple of things accomplished. They said, fuck you. AOC defeated by Gerry Connolly for the ranking member of House Oversight Committee. Why it matters, it's a huge blow to Rep. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's hopes of leading a high-profile panel through the Democratic caucus. Blah, blah, blah.
And you know why she lost that position, Zach?
Because they fucking hate her, man, and they're not going to let her win.
Specifically who?
Oh, Nancy Pelosi.
Mama
100%.
Bear. Mama Bear.
Exactly. And so I just added this point on Twitter, right? Because a lot of people were hopeful that she would get this. Gavin and I were never hopeful that she would get this. We never expected her to get this, so we didn't talk about it. Really, we're just going to unpack why they snubbed her. And that's, again, as Gavin pointed out, because Mama Bear Pelosi doesn't fucking like her at all. Even after the hospital and, you know, a visit from a few Christmas ghosts, she still can't find it in herself to be a progressive at all. But I said, I hope AOC's takeaway from this defeat is that there's no path forward for the left via inside baseball. The progressive movement is desperate for leadership, and it's not too late for her to be the fighter she promised us she would be. Gavin, do you think there's any chance at all, if you're selling hopium, that AOC might take this as a learning opportunity and decide to be more of a gadfly in the halls of Congress instead of a lapdog in the halls of Congress?
I actually do think there's a possibility, and AOC has disappointed me time and time again. If you guys are newer to the channel, I hate to break your hearts, but Zach and I have always, you know, we've been a little bit pessimistic about AOC and the revolutionary change that she actually represents within the halls of the establishment. I think for the most part, she's chosen the route of, you know, selling out rather than genuinely resisting power. But I think this actually does offer her a bit of a path for redemption. Zach, I think she could take this defeat and say, no, fuck you to the establishment. No, I'm going to spin the Trump era, actually being a serious left flank in the halls of Congress. And hopefully, you know, she could then turn that into maybe a run for the presidency in 2028 with some serious progressive bona fides, you know, on her resume at that point, being a real stalwart defender of progressive values in Congress. We'll have to see if that happens, and we'll have to see if she takes it seriously and genuinely resists not just the Republicans, but the Democrats as well. If she does and truly emerges as a leader, then I'm prepared to forgive AOC for the issues I've had with her. I mean, not that those things will be totally absolved, but I'm prepared to forgive her and look at her more as a leader if she is able to evolve into one. If she's able to truly mature into one, again, I'm willing to evolve into her supporter once again.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people, even the most embittered, even the most hardened leftists who have been pulling their hair out for the past 4 years about AOC not going so hard in the paint as maybe a lot of us would have liked to. I think that what we need is a squad renaissance. I think we need these folks. And I think Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar have been so on the money when it comes to foreign policy. They have been such stalwart advocates for the people of Palestine and the Americans who are family members and relatives of those folks, and just anybody who wants to see an end to the suffering overseas that the United States is sponsoring. They have been out in front. They have been slandered. They had been smeared. And I frankly have been disappointed that AOC hasn't done a better job going to bat for them. So I hope, again, we need to see a resurgence of the squad, but we need to see it with a game plan together. We can't have any more of this we all vote alone mentality. I think that was an Ayanna Pressley quote from back in the day.
It was actually a Cory Bush quote that she was quoting Ayanna Pressley. So she was like, this is what my sister Ayanna Pressley said. So actually it was both of them.
We're both right then. Yeah. This is why we have a two-man band. Anyway, long story short is they have this idea that they all go in there and vote alone. Like we're all going to, and that's not how you wield power, right? We talk a lot about unions and organizations and collective bargaining on this podcast. When you are in the halls of Congress, you are a unit. You are a block. Where one of you votes, you all vote, because you don't have enough power to be an individual. You are not Nancy Pelosi. You are not Joe Manchin. You are not Kristen Sinema. They are not going to come to you. You have to say, nope, we're dragging the place backwards. You have to utilize your leverage, right? And you have to strike when the iron's hot. So when they have 7 of them together, it's a lot more powerful than when they have one of them, even though it's not necessarily the block that we were hoping to build over the 6 years in the wake of knock down the House, given that Cory Bush has been kind of picked off. And
do you think that the only reason I'm a little bit pessimistic about this strategy at this point, Zach, is I think a big part of the reason why Cory Bush did lose is the loss of union support following her no vote on the infrastructure bill. Do you remember that? Which was actually the right thing to do, unfortunately, and she did it for good reason, but it was unfortunately misunderstood by a lot of people, including the unions in St. Louis, which then turned on her and at least partially resulted in her ouster.
Yeah, so we have a good connection because we're in Kansas City of a big Missouri union guy runs the KC Labor Beacon. And I talked to him about this exactly. And he was telling me for months and months and months that Cory Bush had absolutely no chance because she was not going to win labor over in St. Louis. And that was a big part of it. And so we as a left have to understand how politics come into play, because if you're going to ask Cory Bush to take a courageous stand like that, then you have to follow through, right? And you have to make sure that people understand that she did that because it was a bipartisan split on the bill, right? And all of the
that's the problem though, is a lot of people are already asleep.
I know.
You know what I'm saying? You start to explain it and they're like, huh?
I know.
Wait, what?
And that's why it is difficult, right?
Yeah.
And that's why we have to be at least a little charitable with people like AOC, because she is still in Congress, right? And Cory Bush got picked off. You know what I mean? So it is that balancing act. That's why I think we need to. That's why you can always smell a rat in the progressive movement when they are excited to lampoon AOC. They're excited when somebody in the progressive movement suffers a defeat so they can be like, I told you so. No, we need to have the exact opposite of that mentality. We need to say, oh, yeah, AOC, you just got kicked on your ass and humiliated. Now, doesn't that light a fire in your belly to make some change? Let's do something for working people. Let's actually say, fuck the establishment. Remember when you had that personality? Let's get back to that. Let's get back to your roots. You know what I mean?
100%. And honestly, again, AOC, I hope this does light a fucking fire under AOC. She should come out tomorrow and be like, you know what? I think I'm going to start leading the crusade to end insider trading, in Congress. And guess what? Who's the biggest offender in that regard, Zach? Nancy Pelosi. Start pointing the finger, AOC. You have a big platform. You have a bigger following than you realize, and a lot more influence and power. You know how much of a frenzy you could whip up if you really wanted to around Nancy Pelosi and her fucking criminal stock trading, and what a fucking disgusting example of corruption that is, infecting not just our government but the Democratic Party, the party that's supposed to be an antidote to the bullshit corruption that is infested our government with the Republicans. And you think this is permissible? Fuck this lady. You know what I'm saying? Like, declare war.
Oh, yeah, you're cooking, bro. That's the way to do it. AOC, if you're listening, people put this on blast. This man, he's, you know what? We're turning Pelosi's brew against her. You know what he said? He said, I'm also descending from my Kansas City castle. You know what? I'm going to kick a CEO in the nuts. I'm going to pick a fucking follicle from his furrowed brow. Okay, I'm going to go deep into the Mark Twain forest and squish the wart from one toad, and then the tears from the establishment as the vanguard rises. Mix it all up into a bitch's brew and get that shit to Congress.
Yup, 100%. Let's hope to see something like that from AOC going forward, because that has to piss her off, right? She really has played the game like she's supposed to play it. You know what I'm saying? She went on the Rolling Stone magazine cover with Pelosi. She voted for the Iron Dome. She said "Mama Bear." She's been a company woman for the most part, just with a little bit of edgy branding.
She endorsed Joe Biden, even though she had one election cycle previously been like, in any reasonable world, Joe Biden and I would not be in the same political party.
Dude, she even spoke at the DNC and kind of honestly disgustingly lied, saying that Kamala Harris was working tirelessly on a ceasefire. Again,
they were not letting the uncommitted movement speak.
Right. Well, yeah, they were totally giving the middle finger to not only the uncommitted movement, but to just any Palestinian person whatsoever who wanted to speak there.
People camping outside in the cold.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it wasn't cold. It was August, but
you
guys get the idea.
Yeah.
Overnight, it gets chilly in Chicago, Windy City.